Hey, what's up, Oscar? How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I just finished a 2 mile run and I cut some time off of that, so feeling pretty good.
And what was your time for those 2 miles?
It was like normally I've been hitting around like 20 minutes, but I got down to like 16, I think like '02 today, so I cut off quite a bit of time. But I live on a hill, it's a very hilly area, so I'm always going up hills and it just sucks.
That's it reminds me of where I grew up as a kid. I grew up in a coal region town, so to get
Hmm.
anywhere, you had to go uphill somewhere. So
Yep.
running, riding bike, whatever it is, and they'll get you too. Those hills will get you. Do you
Hmm.
typically run, or is running something that you've been picking up more recently with what's going on?
Well, when I first started training, actually, my parents were always working, so I never had a form of transportation. So I'd run to the gym. For I started when I was like 13. I did that until I was 16 and could drive. But it did catch up to me. My sophomore year of wrestling, I started getting real bad hip flexor issues and real bad knee issues. So I stopped running, did a lot of biking for a while. But now, since I injured my arm and running's kind of part of rehab, I've been hitting the pavement a lot lately.
Gotcha. Yeah, and running is one of those things where even if your form is a little bit off, right, you can
Mm.
have those knee and those hip flexor issues, and I've battled through them, and I think a lot of fighters have. It's not,
Yeah.
running isn't our primary sport. It's something we do more to like stay in shape, use it as like an active
Hmm.
rest day, what have you. Um, but it's good that you're back into it. I mean, running is something that even for me, it not only helps us stay in shape, but then I find that I do my best thinking if I'm running, riding my bike, whatever it is, just kind of free my mind and get out there and think for however long I'm out.
Yeah, that's the best part. It's like a good mental clarity type of thing. I get to just go to that place when I'm running up them hills.
Exactly. Yeah, that's I'm the same exact way. And you mentioned, that you've been training since you're 13, which is, I think your generation of fighter, right, is starting that young age. You're in the gym training MMA as young teenagers, which even my generation, I'm not much that much older than you, wasn't something that we were doing. What drew you to an MMA gym at such a young age?
Well, I don't know. It was just kind of strange how it all fell together. My uncle knew the gym owner, and ever since I was little, like Mexicans have big families, so we would all have big gatherings, and all the cousins would get together, and we'd all like play fight. And a few of my cousins were really good wrestlers, so we would always just be grappling. And I just always liked to do it.
That's
Um, yeah,
And when
that's
you're saying you're play fighting, you're grappling, were you wrestling at this time, like as a kid, or you're like a little Mat Rats wrestling club or anything like that?
nope. It was just me going off of feel, which is something that like anywhere I go, anybody I roll with, they always tell me I have really good awareness, and I actually feel like it's from all that time of just play fighting with really good wrestlers.
That's awesome, and that's something that I've noticed from my time in especially in jujitsu is that some guys just have that, right?
Mhm.
You can't always teach that mat awareness. I like to call it mat IQ. Like it's just
Yeah.
one of those things that you're aware of your body more than some other people are, and it could be
Mhm.
your background in your cousins beating you up when you were
Yeah.
a kid. So you've been training since you're 13, and how old are you now?
I'm 20.
You're 20 now, so you've been training for about 7 years. And when did you take your first MMA fight?
I was 14.
You were 14, and where did you fight?
I fought in Virginia. I fought for OO fights. Now they're Cagezilla, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean Virginia when I was coming up through, so that would have been what 6 years ago. So that was about the time that I first had my first fight too. Virginia was always taught to us in my gym that it was kind of like the Wild West, right? You could go down to Virginia, you could do anything.
Oh yeah. You, you could throw elbows, knees. It was like as long as you agreed to it, like
Yep.
both of you guys agreed to it, it was full pro MMA rules. I loved it. Um, and there's a lot of killers. There's a lot of killers from the DMV area. Like, make no mistake about it. That he's the ONE FC champ.
Mhm.
I was in the locker room warming up with him and his crazy 88 team back in the day. Like there's killers there. Francis Ambang, Keeman Diop, who fights for glory. Like, I was on the same card as a lot of really good guys who have made tremendous strides, and it's like something for me to, push, pursue, I guess. Like, it's
Yeah.
possible.
Oh yeah, and I think that's something that as young fighters, it's really important to see. I'll never forget the first time I weighed in. I was like,
Hmm.
oh man, like there's professional fighters here. And,
Yeah.
some of the guys that I've been on cards with, are in the UFC now. And they were
Hmm.
on the same, local card as me, fighting in front of 500 people. And it gives,
Yeah.
young fighters that kind of mentality of, man, if I'm here with these guys now, there's no reason why I can't be where they're at in, a couple years.
Exactly. Hmm.
And when you're in the locker room with these guys, and you're seeing them hit mitts and they're warming up, can you kind of tell, like, man, that guy's like, he's really good just from hitting mitts?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I was
Even
too.
for sure, I was like, oh, that guy, I want to watch him fight.
And you're in the back and you're thinking, man, I want to warm up, but I also want to watch these guys fight.
Yeah.
And then, you take your first fight when you're 14, right? And that's young for, anybody to be taking MMA fights. Not a lot of people can fight. I mean, in Pennsylvania, you can't fight till you're 18.
Yeah.
MMA, kickboxing, I think you can fight when you're pretty young. But MMA, especially pro rules down in Virginia.
Yeah.
And then, keep training. And then how often were you fighting after that first fight?
It was tough. From 14 to 18, it was tough. I'd only fight about once a year just because it's hard to find kids to fight. I ended up leaving. I stopped fighting in Virginia when I was like close to 16, and I came up to New York,
Mhm.
and I fought my first adult, and then I did some kickboxing fights because New York changed their rules too. Because they just got legalized, and I love New York, so I've just been staying up there since. They got a lot of good people up there too.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't have to say that they have killer gyms up there. I mean, some of the best
Yeah.
fighters in the world coming out of those places, in the gyms close to where you're fighting. Now, when we had talked previously through our DMs and whatnot, you had said about your gym is just like a group of guys. You get together, you train together. How did that whole conglomerate, I want to say, of fighters come to be? How did you guys all find each other? Where, like, when you're training together, who puts your schedule, your coaching? How does that all work?
All right. So, like, as far as fight camp goes,
Yeah,
or
just like your whole, like your gym, and the way that I understood it is like you're all just getting together, working to the greater good, but didn't really know if you had like dedicated coaches there, or if it's just all the
okay,
fighters
okay.
helping each other, things like that.
So when I first started, it was my coach Dan, my head coach Dan Baker. He ran practices Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. And that's all I would do, like just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. I didn't do any strength and conditioning. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. And then after my first fight, we started to change things up a little bit. We started like sparring on Saturdays. There was just more structure per se. Like our gym is like we're a fighting gym.
Mhm.
Like everybody that's there is either wants to fight or has already fought, is a fighter, or they're coming in to help me. Really, I've been the only fighter of the MAT company. We just
Mhm.
got him to our team. He's great. I let him now. I kind of run practices because my coach just got back surgery. So I've been in charge of how we're running practices. Sometimes I'll let Cam, like we'll go halvesies on a striking practice. I'll start the warm up and all that other stuff, and then he'll take away with some other drills and whatnot. But as far as like structure and all of us coming together, it was just a bunch of guys who, like, my coach works at the Y, so he sees a few of everybody at the Y, people at the gym are trying to better themselves. He'll
Mhm.
ask them, hey, you want to come on out? He'll recruit some members from the Y. That's how we got Pat, one of our guys who just came back. And Andrew. Yeah, so we recruit from the Y, I guess.
That's awesome. That's good for you, man. That's awesome. And you said, early on you were just doing that Monday, Wednesday, Friday grind, the 6 p.m. classes. When did you start incorporating strength and conditioning, and what do you use program-wise for your strength conditioning?
All right, so after my first fight, I lost. I lost by decision.
Okay.
Um, and the kid, honestly, he was a stud. I think he had like 100 career wins at the time. He was a junior in high school. His senior year, he took like second or third at states or something. But he was just more physically put together than me. So after that, I was like, I gotta figure something out. And my coach and the owner of the gym, they both used to be bodybuilders and power lifters too. So they have a lot of old school like grip training and things like that. Like we have at the gym, we have this bar that they actually welded themselves, like made just for gripping, like when you're deadlifting and things like that. And so they put me on a program, and I've just been doing that since up until my title fight. That I chilled out because I, again, prone to injuries because we're an old school gym. We just train hard, get after it. We're guys that just like to get after it.
And how often are you in your gym? How often are you sparring?
Well, we used to spar. It changes. Because like my coach's style of coaching is more of in the moment. So if there's something, and this is how I prefer to coach too, maybe it's because how I was brought up. If there's something glaring, like a glaring technical issue that everybody's doing, I will stop the rounds, be like, hey guys, listen, go back to this. Let's work on this for a little bit. But usually we're sparring every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We just break it up into, we roll on Monday, Wednesday clinch work, Friday is striking. But when I do it, I try to get more than one thing. Like I'll combine clinch and grappling. Sometimes we even do MMA sparring.
Gotcha. And you're sparring, from what I'm picking up, you're not necessarily going full clip. You're not, beating the snot out of each other. But you're getting your timing down, which I think is the most important part.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and you said you had wrestled in high school, but then you're
Mm-hmm.
also talking about doing a lot of striking. You're doing a lot of clinch work, things like that. Would you classify yourself as a striker, a grappler? How would you, when they ask you, Oscar, what do you want to be announced at before the fight? What do you tell them?
I always put down freestyle fighter on the paper because I like I like to strike, but if you want to grapple with me, sure, let's grapple. You know what I mean? If you want to wrestle with me, good luck. Like I'm cool wherever we go, wherever you want to take it, we'll take it. If you're uncomfortable there, I'm gonna keep you there. If it's makes me uncomfortable that we're too even or something like that, then we're gonna stand back up. I'm really confident in my speed, so I feel like on the feet, trading with me, not a lot of people are gonna want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to keep it standing on the feet.
Okay. And sure. And it's cool. You mentioned something of, if you sense that somebody's uncomfortable in a certain position, do you think that comes back to that body awareness we spoke about earlier? Can you kind of feel, when you're rolling with someone or you have them in the clinch, like, oh, there's a tendency they don't like that certain thing I did, and
Mm-hmm.
start to exploit that and build off of that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm all about, especially in grappling exchanges, I'm all about that feel. If I feel like I can do something or put you in a position, or I feel you don't like to be in a certain position, I'll keep you there and work off of that. See what else I can dig out.
And you mentioned your speed a little bit when you're standing. When you're on the ground, you're feeling through these things, making people feel uncomfortable. Are you the type of grappler who likes that heavy pressure where you're just going to like grind through somebody, pressure pass and get to the mount and then start, raining down from there? Or are you more of a flow guy on top where you like to change position, and then catch them in a mistake?
Yeah, I'd say it really just depends on. Like, I have a good flow, and I really like to flow. Like that's what I prefer
Mm-hmm.
over just smash because I like to scramble. That's a big thing. Like scrambling, I love scrambling. Most of my submissions that I attempt, honestly, are from a scramble. I gotta stop. I gotta stop doing that. I gotta focus on position a little bit more. But yeah, a lot of it is just flow and feeling. Again, I'd say. I don't even look for the submissions when I fight though. I just want to beat you up.
Yeah, me too. That's one of my favorite parts about fighting. I'd rather just make you uncomfortable for the entire
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes than I
Oh
would
yeah.
finish it out in the first round. Shout out to Matt Lozano, former training partner of mine. He used to finish people and then he'd be mad because the fight ended too soon. The ref would
Yeah,
stop it
that's.
and he'd be upset. He'd be like, I wanted to go the whole time, but he'd just be beating
Mm-hmm.
him up so bad that they would stop the fight. Um, so you don't hunt for submissions, but say in a perfect world, you could get any submission. that you want to go for? What's your favorite? What submission is like, man, I just love hitting that thing. It's so crisp in the gym. I can hit it from almost anywhere. What's your go-to?
I wouldn't say any particular submission, but just chokes in general. Because when I was younger, I was 13. I didn't have any other teenagers that I was going with. It was just adults. So like key locks, arm bar, that was a little hard. You know, they can muscle out of it, but you can't really muscle out of a choke. So I'm always on the neck.
Okay. And that's from any position, you know, like front headlock, or
Front
even, you
headlock's
know, side
probably my
control,
favorite.
front headlock.
Yeah, because especially in the fight, you can, if you have somebody in a front headlock before you even snap them down, if you've watched any of my fights against Adam Mazzeo, that's a great fight to watch. I love delivering knees
Hmm.
from that front headlock position.
That's what I was just thinking. I couldn't remember his name, but I saw your fight with him and you had that front headlock and he could
Hmm.
not get out and he was not
Yeah.
comfortable. Speaking of exploiting people when they're not comfortable. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody's comfortable getting kneed in the face, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's not fun for anybody. Um, so, you know, right now, kind of with the way that the, you know, world is with this pandemic, we can't fight, right? No fights are
Yeah.
coming up. I guess if we want to go to Florida, I think they're opening up soon to start having fight cards, but nobody's flying me down there to fight. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna foot that bill myself. When things start opening back up and when we're able to fight again, train again, what's on tap for you for your future, the rest of 2020 if we get any in, and then you know into 2021.
Well, my last fight, I dropped down to 125
Hmm.
and I dislocated my elbow. I actually just got surgery. I'm not sure if you can see that scar,
I can, yeah.
but I got a reconstructive surgery on my UCL. That was February 1st. So throughout this whole thing, I've just kind of been rehabbing and, you know, doing some soul searching, if you will. And so I'm not sure if I'll fight again 2020. Ideally, the doctor said I'll be good for fight camp in August, but I have some plans. Like I want to travel to California. I'm moving to I'm planning on moving to California in 2021, actually,
Do you
to pursue there.
do you have a gym picked out area of California, anything like that?
Yeah, Escondido. I see. Here's the thing. My whole family is actually from the San Diego area, just from California in general. So I have no shortage of family to stay with. My uncle lives in Escondido, and he's gonna put me. I'm staying with them, and my dad actually his best friend is like the owner of California Cage Wars. I'm not sure if you're aware of them
Hmm.
or not. So he said he'll take care of my camp and all that stuff. Like they're childhood best friends, like since 12 years old. So I'm pretty excited with whatever he said. That's the thing. I'm planning on that trip sometime later 2020 just to see where he wants to put me, see if I mesh with the team, with the coaches, you know, just see what the deal is down there.
Got you. And you know, is there, you know, everybody, I mean, you get to a certain point and you're thinking, you know, what's next in my career? So, you know, what after you move to California, you get some fights out there. Do you have, you know, like a goals list, a vision board, any kind of, you know, things you want to hit by certain times in terms of your career? Or do you just more of take it,
Oh,
go with
yeah.
the flow and say, all right, if this happens, it'll happen when it happens?
Yeah, no, I am super. I've always been about time-oriented goals, smart goals. Like by 2026, my sister graduates 2026. I want to be able to win a world championship by 2026 so I can come back and speak at a graduation. I think that would be cool. That's something I visualize a lot.
That's an awesome goal, man.
Yeah, that's the big one. Um, as the other ones are just small things like move to California, get my own place in California, turn professional after a few more fights. I don't really want to turn professional. A big thing for me is I don't train gi. Like
Hmm.
I guess you could say catch wrestling. I don't know how you would even label our style. It's basically MMA grappling, I guess. So I don't really train traditional jiu-jitsu. Before I turn pro, I'd like to be at least a blue belt.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from, I started in the gi, and a lot of people always ask me, do you even need the gi for MMA? And you know, you have
Mm,
Eddie Bravo in the 10th Planet camp who says no, and it's stupid and never train in the gi. And then you have more of my mentality of my gi game has always improved my no-gi game. And then my no-gi game has also helped my gi game. So I would definitely encourage you to get a gi, get in the gi, start training in it. Um, your escapes become much more clean. You can't just, fly out of things when somebody has you in something
Yeah.
deep. There's a lot more friction. All of those things that come with the gi, they'll make you a much better grappler in MMA.
Yeah, I did one gi class, and when we finally got to roll, they just grabbed my pant leg, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, can't do this, I was okay. What do we do now?
Yeah,
It's a whole
that's
other world.
that's some of the beauty of it. They're grabbing your collar, and I mean, you liking to choke people. There's a whole new world
Hmm.
of chokes when you can start grabbing the collar and doing things like that. So, judging just from this short conversation we're having, I think you're gonna enjoy the gi just because of what it opens up in terms
Hmm.
of your mind and technique and different things that you don't really think about in no gi, and then you start to defending it and you can start attacking it. It's fun. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Another thing I want to get into is judo. Like, I just want to learn it all, to be honest. I want to, all of it. Karate, taekwondo. I want all the knowledge,
Send it all. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's the only. I mean, be a world champion. Take a little bit of everything. Nobody
Hmm.
just trains one aspect anymore.
Yeah.
We're true mixed martial artists in the sense of you're training all of the martial arts in some aspect or another. That clinch work you're doing, judo is
Yeah.
going to improve that tenfold. And, if you're always wrestling, because that's, a big base of MMA, but then your jujitsu, your taekwondo, kickboxing, what have you, all of those things are going to help.
Hmm.
Um, Cool, man. Well, we are, really excited to be working with you. I'm excited to see your growth in the sport. You're still really young. It's going to be fun to watch you when you move out to California. If you're close to, Alliance, that gym out there, we have an athlete, Tyler Escoto, who trains out at Alliance, lives in California. So, feel free
Okay.
to hit him up too. We're still growing this MMA T company community, but, we're trying to have people all over the place.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Oscar, it was a pleasure today. Stay safe. Hopefully that rehab goes well, and we'll look forward to seeing you fight. Hopefully the end of this year, early 2021.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Awesome. Thanks. See you soon.
Yep. See you.